Why do you hang around with the worst crowd, the worst crowd? It's gonna hurt me, 'cause you're with the worst.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 35, I believe it is, of Third Man In, brought to you by Head Check Health. I'm Mike Hickey, and I am joined today by...
Terry Ryan.
How's it going, TR? Chuck, as anybody who listened last week knows, Chuck's in Montreal this week, having a time, going to, I don't know what kind of clubs and pubs and places he's taken in the city, but I'm sure he's having a great time.
I sent him a few messages. He said he was having a good time. He didn't get specific, but
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't? Leafs, Habs, Montreal. You know, if you're gonna be in the winter, because it's pretty much winter now.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be in the winter in Canada, no better time or place than Leafs, Habs in Montreal.
And, of course, his streak continues because the Leafs lost like 5-2 or something.
By 2 goals, I think, or 4-2, I think, or maybe it was 5. You're right.
But either
In any
way,
case, the
they
streak
lost,
continues.
and his streak of seeing the Leafs lose continues. We're actually pumped because we've got one of our guests that's coming on today is actually somebody whose song has been used as the Leafs goal song, which you didn't hear much of Saturday night. But that was also because it was in Montreal, so you wouldn't have heard it anyway.
Wow, look at the daggers
I know, throwing them out.
coming out.
Well, I mean, it's, Bruins won like fucking 7-4 or something yesterday, so like they came out heavy. So it's easy for me to just be like, Leafs don't score goals because Chuck's not here to defend them.
Yeah, true enough. Hey, it was a good vibe. I always, since my playing days,
And
really
did I see someone post that like the anniversary of your first game was the other night?
It was, yeah. 6-5 too. Like I honestly couldn't remember the score. You'd figure I would, but I don't recall, like 11 goals that game. I guess that was a lot even for. I know people say eras change.
Yeah.
That was kind of right in the middle of the change. I believe it was 90. Would have been 96, I suppose. Yeah, 96, 23 years. And it was against the Legion of Doom, the Philly Flyers.
Wow.
With Leclerc, Remberg, Recchi, or no, Leclerc, Remberg, and Lindros. My God. Of course, Recchi did play in Philly, but not during then. He was on my team, for God's sake.
He was on, because the whole story of, roof and
well, exactly.
and the various things. Yeah.
Exactly. So you have to read the book. There you go. That nice plug. It didn't seem like 23 years ago, of course, but it was a great time. I remember the night before, I had no idea I was going to play, man. It was in the morning. Because I was there. I made the team at the beginning of the year, 96, 97. And if you'll notice, at the end of the year, I went back to Red Deer, but it wasn't until February, the trade deadline. Had I stayed in Tri-Cities, nothing against them, they were in last place. So the Habs, agreed to have me up there all year and practicing. And while it was very beneficial, in a lot of ways, I mean, it really was. I just wasn't expected to play that much. And if you look, I only played 3 games. I was there till February, and I was going through the tail end of a concussion at the beginning of the year. But regardless, I got into a few games, and that first one, I had no idea. So Sheldon Surrey came up. I remember he drove up with his buddy Eric Bertrand. And they, honestly, Sheldon had heard I was on the team. He had heard on the radio that I was playing. He was in New Jersey. He was just I think he was in Albany.
Okay.
He was part of the Devils organization.
Yeah.
Whatever happened, Sheldon got up there, or he knew Lyle Odelay, something. I can't remember what it was, but he knew before I knew. Because he came up and we were going to have dinner and everything together, and he said, no, I said, I came up to see you because you're in the lineup tomorrow. I'm going to watch. Which is also cool, right?
Yeah,
Sheldon,
it's
a
fantastic.
guest. I don't know too many people doing that. Like he was in the AHL. He drove to Montreal. Well, I said, no way. So I can't remember, but there was something there. It wasn't malicious on the Canadians' part. They just hadn't, they couldn't track me down. I don't believe I had my cell phone. You couldn't be texting or whatever.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was the night before, so it's not like I was going to get shit-faced. I was at, we were going for a bite to eat at a place, Weinstein and Gavino. I've mentioned that before.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about that place. Yeah.
I just, I just really enjoy it there. And that was it. And the next morning I went down, and sure enough, Jacques Leperriere, who was there at the time, said, I believe it was Benoit Brunet. At the time, they called him Benoit the Brittle. Very, very good player, but he was always injured, man. He was always injured. So anyway, I got into my first game, and later in my career, I I had some games that I just sat on the bench the whole time. I kind of expected that to happen, but I played fairly regular, to be honest. And I remember Lindros hitting me in the corner, or Lindros, depending on the way you pronounce it. And I just can't explain. Like, he was just so big. It was one thing to like expect a hit from Scott Stevens or, a big Ken Danico, say, on Jersey, or Sheldon, or whoever it may be at the time. Brian Marchment, I don't know. Go around the league, there was lots of big D that hit. But Lindros was just like, he was so big. Well, he is so big. And it's like he was skating in full force. Like, it was just hard in the corner. Because, sometimes like you're playing a corner game and, you're trying to grind it out. But he was almost like he was in full flight a lot of the time that he was in the offensive zone, and not in a Mario Lemieux way trying to dangle. He was just skating around, man, like Ovechkin does a lot of the time. And if you got your head down, he's going to hammer you, and he's going to take the puck. And while Ovechkin, I'll say, is like, you can't argue with. I mean, you got to say he's one of the best scorers of all time. You can make an argument for the best. I don't know if I would quite yet, but with Lindros, it was more of a power forward thing. Like, I'm not saying he's any better of a scorer than Ovechkin. In fact, I'm not saying that at all. But if there's, I didn't play against Ovechkin, but just he was just really imposing in the offensive zone when Lindros was there, man. And then you got Leclerc and Renberg, who were huge too. So I just remember that being a huge eye opener. I know I'm talking a lot about it, but man. And by the way,
yeah,
I was just going to say, how did it go last week? I didn't curse, right?
You didn't? No.
Okay, I didn't curse.
And I haven't heard from, we threw it out to everybody on Twitter. Yeah. I've already got one in.
I've heard a few people,
episode.
My buddies said I didn't, but, they didn't listen to it. Yeah, anyway.
But yeah, we threw it out because Chuck had ticked one off during the course of it, but we don't know if that was just like his pen. It was kind of moving, because I didn't remember you.
His pen kind of moving. Yes, it kind of was like that.
And so yeah, I don't remember one through the interview. You didn't. Chuck said he tracked one, but couldn't remember pinpoint where it happened. We said online for people to listen.
I did. So I got a little feedback.
I put a little
but I didn't get any real feedback. Like, the feedback, yes, okay. People were like, "Well, no, I don't think you cursed or whatever," but and that was the goal. Yeah. But like, should I curse? Should I be? Because I was just going to drop an F-bomb. So now I'm thinking, like, should I, like, I feel like an alcoholic who's been off the booze for a couple of weeks. Like, should I? Because you know what I mean? I can just open the floodgates and let her go. I think, you know what? It's a podcast. I'll curse once in a while. Yeah. I'm just going to make and for no other reason. You know what? Do you know the only reason that I'm cutting down on cursing? Do you honestly know?
Because you've got a 9-year-old daughter and you're trying to be more aware of what you say in front of her.
That's a great guess, but no, there's too much out there. There's too much out there. She's gonna. I just start that already. Daddy's, she knows.
Yeah, all right.
Daddy's, like that. I tell her it's a character. She knows I'm an actor. So I try to tell her, I said, when I'm on the radio, because I do curse more on here. I'm not at home going like, Penny Lane, get the fuck down here. Not at all. Never. But
okay, then if it's not that, I would guess it's that knowing that you do some more public speaking gigs, knowing you do a bit other radio
that's
stuff.
That's another great point.
Yeah, it was just to try to train yourself out of subconsciously.
You are my moral conscience here. To try to train myself out true enough.
But also not that.
And subconscious, no. But that's a great idea. That's a great thing because, well, you're right. It's the reason is because I ran into an old teacher of mine and I felt bad. Honestly.
That's all it was?
Yeah, like sometimes, like friends of my parents or like my relatives, or like I'll see someone at the grocery store and I'll just go like, oh my God, hey Terry, like really kind of dug that Ryan Anderson episode, and I'm going, oh my God, what I didn't talk about, the words coming out of my mouth.
Man,
it was bad enough anyway, and then describing or Aaron Asham with getting a gun pulled on us and a knife. Those stories are crazy enough, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just swearing like worse when it's on there. So you know what? Give me some feedback. Let me know. I mean, no one should really care, but yeah, you're right. It's on my conscience a little bit. Sometimes I go home and I'll smoke a joint and relax at the end of the night. And I got this great weed, Moonbeam, now. I love that you can just pick whatever. Because back in the day, it was just like, get weed. Hopefully this stuff makes me feel good. But I get anxiety. It's really the only reason I do it. Not the only reason now. I'm sure at night it doesn't hurt when I'm watching Hell on Wheels or something to be a little bit stoned. But That's the reason that I even got into it in the first place. And so now more what I do is CBD. Again, I do get stoned if I go to a movie, or there are, like, during the day I'm working, I can't remember shit if I'm stoned.
How can you afford to get the munchies at a movie?
What's that? Yeah. Honestly,
and that's a little throwback to a couple weeks ago for everybody listening.
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't want to dig in on that.
What
again.
episode was that, Ryan Anderson?
I think it was the Anderson one. Yeah, Chuck wasn't here for it.
Tune into the beginning if you want to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's it. It's sometimes, and then anyway. So in that moment, and the moonbeam will relax me about everything. But sometimes things come to my mind that are like legit. Like I've smoked certain kinds of weed, and you'll get like paranoid because like, oh my god, like. Something's in the closet, or there's nothing like that. Might be a little bit much on weed, but I don't freak myself out. It's all legit stuff, and I'll think, and it's fairly logical. I don't think there's a whole lot of THC in it. Whatever it is, it calms me down, but it gets me thinking. I'm like, I probably let go 50 F-bombs today, and there are, and then I'll just think of like my old teacher, Miss Kenny, and hi Terry, how are you? Your podcast is doing really well. I'm really proud of you. And then like she turned it on, and I'm just talking about the most raunchy, ridiculous stuff. Now, I try to stay away from the crude, the raunchy, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. We talk about it. But, the raunchies, that's a whole flavor and a theme. I try to stay away as best I can. But I don't know, man. It's you know what? I get talking like it's a dressing room. That's what it is. And in a dressing room, I'm just
and you know what?
awful.
I think, and I think it's that sort of thing. I mean, when you listen to a podcast, that's kind of what you're going for, is you're listening and to be part of, you kind of feel like it's kind of a feeling of inclusion. You feel like you're a bit of an insider into what's happening. And people have said that to me about our show, and have said that, part of what they like is that they feel like, they're just in a locker room or wherever, and it's got that vibe. And so I think for that reason, other than, if you're not censoring yourself because you're trying to like train yourself from saying it for because of other things you're doing, or if you're not doing it because of your daughter and just being afraid of whatever, like if you're just doing it for the sake of censoring yourself, I'd say fuck that.
And sometimes it is. Sometimes it's me being a bit extra. What's the word? Careful, or just I'm thinking about the mass eye. I'm thinking about like the 2% of people that are going to go, man. I'm thinking like I'm 11 years old and my parents have never heard me swear. But now that being said, give me some feedback. If you think I swear too much, let me know. Yeah. Or too little, let me know in the last 2 episodes. And
for me, it's just like, for me last week, it was kind of that experiment. It was more of the latter that we were talking about, of just like, there's other stuff that I do that isn't this, that I need to, as a presenter or interviewer, I'm trying to present myself in a bit of a different way, that I don't have that as part of my common lexicon. So I just want to make sure that when I need to turn it off, I can turn it off. And so that's kind of why I joined you in trying not to swear last week.
Fair enough. And now we've tackled that. I have got one thing to say before we get our great guest, and once again, off the beaten path. I'm surprised to get him, but we'll get into that in a second. I got a couple just things that were on my mind. I sent myself a note.
Cool.
One has nothing to do with hockey, but I got to say it.
All right.
Why do I keep hearing this bullshit that no two snowflakes are the same? How the fuck do you know? You know what I mean? How the fuck do you know? Even if you're a scientist, what are you talking about? There's 8 billion pieces of snow that fall every second when it's snowing in the world. You're telling me that this piece here that falls in Twillingate, Newfoundland can't possibly be the same as a piece that fell in the mountains of Tibet. Like, there's more snowflakes than there are stars in the sky. Like, who the fuck are you to tell me that each one of these little tiny minuscule fucking snowflakes can't be the same? I just find it bullshit. I find it very, very presumptuous. And I don't believe that it's real. No, I don't. Like they say, a million monkeys in a room will make a script at some point or whatever. I don't know. I just don't believe that many snowflakes have fallen in this point of human existence on Earth.
There was at one point an actual age of ice.
Yeah, an age of ice. Yeah. And it goes back further. I said human existence. Human existence has nothing to do with it. That's just 10,000 years civilized, or 200,000 years, no matter what way you're looking at it. And we've been around here, for billions? And there hasn't been
70
fucking snowflakes that are the same.
I saw a thing today, actually. I think it's 700,000 or 70,000. I can't remember the exact number, but they found apparently where Homo sapien, like the modern man, originated. It's a spot in Botswana. Apparently, they've traced back the earliest DNA of Homo sapien to there. So
Okay,
70-ish thousand years.
70-ish. So, and around 200,000, it was like Neanderthals, and things were close to Homo sapiens. And then I believe 10,000 years ago was the agricultural revolution. The way I understand it, I'm reading a book now, by the way, called Sapiens. I only take a snippet out and read it. I'm just going to read it over and over and over and over. So I say I'm reading it, but it's probably been 5 years. Because these are facts that I just find fascinating. I just can't wrap my head around it. But around like 70,000, what you're saying, there was a cognitive revolution. And I guess you could say that led to us being conscious of, for lack of a better way to explain it, we're conscious. We make, when humans' brains grew and, we started thinking, we're the only species that, if I was to come across you 50,000 years ago, now you're a human, I'm a human. We might be from different tribes, right? But we'll see a lion there, and you'll sneak up. Now, if I see you going, I might make a hand signal to you. Shh, shh, shh. We might work together to kill that lion, so we can, even though we've never met each other before, right? We're from, and humans started to do that, and then of course tribes. Not that there was no war, there always has been. Humans are always going to want to slit each other's throats. How's that? Even now, we're going to enjoy the joys of killing. But anyway, I just find it all interesting how all that started, and then the agricultural revolution. And to be honest, this is what I'm reading about now. The agricultural revolution, say 10,000 years ago, and that's obvious, like people started farming, and where they could stay in one place instead of nomads, foragers like they were before that, right?
Yeah.
So the guy writing this book makes a good point. And he's like, were they any better off? You just assume that everybody's happier, right? He said it wasn't the case. Like when they're domesticated, really the only thing is cured was laziness, but like there was more disease, right? Because you're for you're sedentary, whatever the word is, you're making. So if one thing, you might pass, if you just have something, you might pass it around. B, you're all eating and drinking the same stuff. So all of a sudden, disease became way more of a thing. All of a sudden, hierarchies started. Oh yeah, well I'm the farmer and you're gonna fucking do it, you slave. But before that, it was just cooperation and moving, and
it was more communal.
It was more communal. So like, what's better, one versus the other? Now that led to us now, which everybody would say, oh my God, that's way better. Obviously, I'm driving around a fucking car, going down and going to have a craft beer. I'm swearing now. It's but anyway, so I'm going to go have a craft beer. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to hit my hot tub later. Maybe if we save up enough money in a month, might be able to go up and watch a Leafs game or whatever. What's Leafs? Oh, they're just entertaining, skating around the ice, getting paid more than anybody on earth. Just, you know what I mean? Like, well, who's that guy? Oh, he's singing a song. He's the most famous person on earth. So that all sounds great, right? Private jets and everything. But we might just lead to our own destruction here. Yeah. Right? That's very, so what's better? Right? Now, of course, in every philosophy class in North America, they're talking about this, but I just find it often, the little bits that make up that whole argument, I find really interesting.
It is, and it's kind of hard to track down and pinpoint, and there's so many different, ways to look at the whole thing. And I will just be clear that I was wrong. It was 200,000 years ago,
Georgia.
But the area sustained life for 70,000 years.
There you go. Yeah.
And it's in Botswana, but it's also the region is also in part in Namibia, I think is how you pronounce that. I always get it wrong. It's Zimbabwe, and it's at it's a wetland south of the Zambezi River. But apparently, this is posted like 2 hours ago. Like,
but
this is breaking news. We found out where humans came from 200,000 years ago, but it's breaking news because everything is breaking news right now.
By the way, remember that podcast I was telling you about coffee and how it began? I think. Yeah. It's on. I
haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but
how it began. Now it's Brad. Anyway, check it out. Like I said, they're a package. He's still got podcasts going. They're called Context. Well, I think one of the contexts or one of those how it began gets right into that, and the reason for that is because they had more. They had like most of the grains on Earth needed. They had a lot of water, and they had most of the animals. North America wasn't the case. Like they brought it, like there was no corn in North America.
Yeah.
Now you can walk 2 miles and not have come across any other plant, right? So clearly we use it over here, but originally In fact, originally there
Well,
was.
wasn't corn with South America though, wasn't it? And just not North America. I
Well,
think.
yeah. It wasn't
yeah.
in North America.
Yeah,
no,
sorry.
no, it was
Yeah. South America. Yeah,
Yeah, and they all had different, like, say, I don't know, the different kinds. There's, there's barley, and there's certain grains, and there's corn, and then you got, like, you had all your animals. The domesticated animals were there. So even though they ended up, you think of like the Wild West and people like having farms and all, because they took them there. But like most of this, I mean, there were animals in North America, but way, way back before. I'm going like 10,000 years ago. They killed most of those off. The first wave of humans killed off, like, there was like 200 big mammals type things in North America, and most of them got killed off. Just the first wave of everything. Humans just wiped out everything, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I was an extension of that when I played in Tri-Cities in 1996.
By extension of that, when I was in Tri-City.
Yeah, Kennewick Man. Have you ever heard of Kennewick Man?
It's one of the bog people, right?
I was the Kennewick Man. We were at the boat races in Tri-Cities. It's like, a yearly event. And I was in my archaeology class in Mundut a few years ago, and this came up, and I was like, are you kidding me? I was there. We were there for the boat races, and some guy found this dead body, man.
Yeah,
and
it was
started
discovered
freaking
July
out in town.
28th, 1996.
Yes, we were like, who is it? Who is it? We thought that, like, it was some local.
You thought it was a murder or something.
But what they found, that was on the Columbia River, so it gave proof that the first proof, now there's a few Kennewick men and women found, but the first proof where it was that people had crossed Alaska to come, or cross Russia to come over to Alaska back in the day when it opened up a little bit, and then they took that route downwards. So it proved, and it also, I think it's dated, at the time it was dated the oldest skeleton, or one of the oldest skeletons in all of North America. Well, I guess one leads into the
it's
other.
9,000 years old.
Anyway, dude, we were right there.
That's so cool.
I happened to be in my archaeology class. I know, can you imagine that? This was like, say, 7 years ago. I was sitting in there. It was one of those general elective courses that I needed to graduate. So I went and I said, archaeology would be all right. And our prof starts talking about Kennewick Man. I stood up. I said, you're not going to believe this shit. I was there. Like, imagine me saying that almost 20 years later in a different continent. Couldn't be any further away.
Yeah,
than,
the other side of the continent.
This was out by Seattle.
Yeah.
And the guy's going, no way. And I said, you're not going to believe this. I lived in Kennewick. I had no idea what you were going to talk about today. Yeah, how fucking crazy is it anyway?
Yeah, it was Kennewick Man was according to the Wikipedia page, which was the quickest thing.
Sometime
which I know
in the
not
middle
always,
of the summer '96.
It was found by Will Thomas and David Deasy, who were attending the annual hydroplane races on July 28th, 1996, and found a skull in the reservoir of the Columbia River in Columbia Park in Kennewick, Washington. The remains had become exposed due to erosion and had been scattered by water forces in the reservoir.
About 5 minutes from Toyota Center where we played.
That is cracked.
I know, it is cracked. Now, there was a link. Usually there's not.
Yeah, no,
Usually
that was actually.
which brings me.
I thought you were like, and I actually called you on it. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. There's gonna be some.
Okay, Stevie's waiting. We got to give him a call. Oh, anyway, wait, yeah. I cut you off. But yes, it is mad. We'll talk about it another day.
Yeah.
And I've got friends that are going to come on this show that were there with me.
So
we'll package
wild.
that up and we'll remember that we talked about it.
We'll do a whole special at some point about the Kennewick Man. But in the meantime, we're going to take a quick second to hear a word from our sponsor, and then we'll be right back with our guest, Steve Kiely from Monster Truck, right here on Third Man In, brought to you by Head Check Health.
Concussions are serious business. Concussions and post-concussion syndrome had a huge effect on my career. Whether you're a player, a concerned parent, a coach, a risk manager, or an executive, they're a major area of concern. Head Check Health has developed software and services that improve the way concussions are assessed, tracked, and managed at all levels of sport. Their goal is to create a safer environment of play by giving better tools to the individuals responsible for documenting and assessing concussions and providing better data to administrators to make real health and safety improvements. Head Check currently works with organizations across the country like the Canadian Junior Hockey League, BC Hockey, Rugby Ontario, the Western Lacrosse Association, and more to advance their concussion management practices. If you're interested in learning more how HeadCheck can help your team or organization, please visit headcheckhealth.com or email info@headcheckhealth.com. That's headcheckhealth.com or info@headcheckhealth.com, and tell them TR sent you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest is a native of Hamilton, Ontario, and is the drummer for Canadian legendary hard rockers Monster Truck. He is a bodacious beatkeeper, a talented traveler, a rambunctious rocker, a blissful bandmate, a passionate performer, a patient podcaster, a ferocious fan, a marvelous magician. He is the kid on the street that keeps the beats, a nice percussionist and great discussionist. or we wouldn't have him on. Under his bucket there once stood a mullet. When he was 3, he loved MTV. If you happen to be with him, he might play you a rhythm. To our amazement, he visited Senior's basement. Better with a drumstick than most people from New Brunswick. He doesn't want to play. He wants to bang the drum all day using his hands and his feet. This man can certainly keep a beat. And unlike Roseanne Barr, this dude's a rock star. Now enough talk, please. It's time to shoot the breeze with my good friend, Steve Kiely of Monster Truck. How are you, buddy?
Hey, Steve.
Wow, great. Your intros are legendary.
Well, I only thought of this recently.
Oh,
I think halfway
man.
through I started doing that.
Oh man, it's great. Because I listen obviously, and I'm not gonna lie, I was wondering, what's my intro gonna be like?
There's too many. They kept popping in my head at work today.
Oh man, perfect.
At some point, I want to come on as a guest just to have him do one for me, just to see what he says.
Oh, it's worth it. It is so worth it. Yeah.
There you go. Now you got that. I want to hear that before one of your shows one of these days. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll introduce you guys.
Maybe I'll re-record it backwards and put it at the end of one of our albums like the Beatles did.
Wow. You know what? Fantastic points right off the bat for Steve Kiely. Mark that down.
I'll send you the stem of just TR just.
Okay. That's perfect. Please do.
I will.
Okay, now we're going to get right into it. A lot of people that came across Monster Truck, like myself, probably would have done it in the early 2010s from the NHL EA Sports hockey game. I had it on PS4. So just to give people an idea if they don't know, now Monster Truck are fairly popular and I saw you guys twice in the last couple months. Both times you were in Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Club 1 and then down to the tent. It was unbelievable.
You've seen us 100% of the times we played in Newfoundland.
That's wild. I hope you're back soon because people loved it.
Oh,
and,
yeah. We will be, yeah.
I just kind of wanted to get, so we'll get into the hockey and there's a big hockey affiliation with the Leafs as well, but I want to get right back. So you guys as a band started in 2010 or 2011, around there, right?
Well, you know what? We've been saying over the last, since kind of the spring that we've been 10 years as a band now. So you're always a band for a little bit of time before people get to know who you are, right? So we kind of first jammed together as a band 10 years ago, this spring that just passed. So yeah, you're in and around there.
Okay. No, but every year makes a difference here, Stevie. So
before
that, now, what was I knew I grew up in Hamilton, and we talked a little bit about it when you visited my dad's basement, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But your upbringing now, were all you guys coming up in Hamilton? And if so, even if not so, when did you get into music, like at a young age?
Well, I grew up in Dundas, Ontario, which is kind of like a suburb just to the west of the city. Born and raised there. I was the oldest of 5 kids. And actually the first kind of passion that I had, and same with all of my family, was sports, really. As a lot of Canadian kids get into that. And I was really big into soccer growing up and all the typical sports that kids kind of play. And I never took it too far. I guess the furthest I took anything was I played football in university.
Wow.
And
geez, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I went to one year of university at McMaster here in Hamilton,
where my dad graduated from. Hats off, senior. Shout out.
Yeah, fellow alumni. Well, actually, I didn't graduate, but I went to 1 year.
Still, that's something. That's more. That's a commitment.
I was like a freshman that just redshirted the whole year, but it was quite an experience to play sports at that level, because it really takes on a life of its own, when you play it at that level as opposed to a kid playing things growing up,
Well, it becomes a responsibility and a commitment, and you're all of a sudden. Yeah. That says a lot.
That's why I only went to 1 year university, is because at the end of the year, I kind of realized I was going there to play football, and that's an awful lot of money to spend to go and play football and not really focus on studies,
Yeah.
So yeah,
still worth it.
you know,
You needed the experience to know that about yourself.
definitely, and it taught me invaluable lessons about teamwork. You know, football is an incredible team sport.
Yeah.
You know, you really feel like you're going out to war with your brothers. You know, it's similar to a hockey kind of vibe. You know.
Totally.
Yeah, sports was kind of a thing until I turned about 20. But now that being said, my parents made all of us take piano lessons starting at about 5 or 6 years old.
Smart decision.
And I think, yeah, I mean, you know, I hated it at the time. I really did. We had to practice for half an hour after dinner every night. You know, we had lessons once a week at Mrs. Puskas's place, her old dingy basement in Dundas, where, you know, it just was a real chore back then. But man, am I really glad that they kind of put us through that. They kind of said, if you can take it to a grade 6 level, which is that's fairly high in terms of the music conservatory.
Yeah.
Then you can choose to continue on your own or quit. And at that time I quit, and that was it for music for me for a while. But it laid a great foundation.
Yeah, I mean, for me growing up, I started piano lessons around the same time, around 5 or so. But there was I remember there was a thing where my mom thought that the lessons were an hour and they were a half hour, and then there was this big racket with the piano teacher over how much she was paying for how long I was there. And so
were you on the PIP?
Yeah.
Were you on the PIP of piano lessons?
I just remember it being a thing, and it was like this big racket about like how long the lessons were supposed to be or whatever, and there was a big disagreement. And then I got out of piano lessons because of it, and then we were gonna find another piano teacher and just never did. And now all I can never do is play like hot cross buns and a little bit of
chopsticks,
bit of London. Yeah. I can pull off some London Calling, like I can do that one.
Oh, wow!
But that's like 2 chords, so that's kind of it.
Yeah,
as soon as I bring in the bass line, everything goes to shit. But
you know what's funny?
Yeah.
I keep trying, guys. I got so much to do, and I'm so busy though. But the guitar lessons I tried were I bought a game called Rockstar actually, and these guys were on it.
Yeah,
I forget what game.
Rocksmith.
Oh, Rocksmith. That's it. That's it. And
That
was an
How's
option.
that for a segue?
That was about 5 or 6 years ago.
It would have been 5. Yeah, it was Rocksmith 2014.
Yeah, exactly. Because my buddies and I, senior hockey, we'd go over to someone's place, and when I played for the Cornerbrook Royals, and Roger Maxwell, shout out. We used to Roger Maxwell, and we used to call his place the Maxi Pad. It was great. So, but we would go over there and play that. What was the game before that? The Rock Star.
There was
right?
Rock Band, and there was Rock Band, and there was Guitar Hero. But
Hero, yeah.
But Rocksmith was actually designed to be more of a teaching
but
tool
it was
to
an
actually
actual
teach
guitar.
you how to play guitar. Yeah.
That's why I get into it. I was playing the other one. I was hitting like blue, hit green, hit the note, and you're not learning anything. I'm like, I might as well learn to play.
Yeah, it was.
That was the big complaint about that one, right? It's like, this isn't a freaking guitar, you know?
Yeah, it was. Well, that's the thing is the only instrument you could kind of learn how to play from Rock Band was you could kind of learn about sustaining notes for singing and the drums, sort of. But that was still, because that was the only one where you were literally just hitting a drum.
Totally. The funny story about that game, when we were recording Curiosity, our first full length album, we went down to North Carolina and we stayed at the studio for a month. And in the lounge, not everyone's working at the same time when you're doing an album, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys are doing their guitar parts, their solos, so there's a lounge in the basement that had, it was right when Guitar Hero came out. And I destroyed everyone at it because those old guitar, like the Guitar Hero guitars with the buttons and that little twig that you kind of flick with your finger, those movements actually are more suited to drummers who have kind of more independent movement and tapping. You know what I mean?
No.
It's way more of a percussion instrument. Yeah.
Whereas the Jer, the guitar player in the band, he was horrible at it because he wanted to play how you would play on guitar, and it's just impossible when there's 4 buttons as opposed to 6 strings.
True.
So I cleaned up on that game back then. But then as soon as Rocksmith came out and our song was on it, then I was hopeless by then.
I didn't realize how advanced that Rocksmith was. Like advanced in bed, it's a real guitar. But That's
Yeah.
what I. So Penny Lane, what was that? 2014. She was 4. That's what I bought her for a birthday, and I just kept it. Here. By the way, here's a brand new electric guitar, and a whole lot of classic rock songs for you to play with it. Go back to Teletubbies. Anyway, I got her something
great.
else the next week. I felt bad. I didn't realize it was so advanced. But in any case, how did that happen? How did you guys get on that game? Like, does someone in there have a video game hookup? It must be the case. You guys get chosen.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, it's no secret that Jer is a video game like nut. Like, he often will play, online. He'll just kind of post on our Facebook or something like, "Hey, Jer wants to play someone in whatever game at 7:00," and then people will, play against him. And
I'm definitely joining this thunder. Go ahead.
Yeah. His name is Mustard SG, I believe. He plays Xbox. But there's also a part of our team with our record label is a team that seeks out placements like that for our songs. And I think the fact that Jer is so into video games and vocal about it since the beginning of the band, he's been saying, "Our songs are perfect for video games. You got to push them into video games." And so I think they've been pushed maybe a little harder than any normal band's material would be pushed because of that. But it's been a big part of people getting to know who we are, video games in general.
And how have you guys found that for growth? Because obviously, like, the music industry has changed so much, so drastically over the last, say, 25 years, especially. But do you find that being present in like video games is kind of giving you guys a bit of a grassroots thing that you wouldn't normally have been able to get?
Yeah, like being in NHL was probably the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
The NHL games. I think the first one we were in, was 13.
Yeah.
And then I know we've been in a couple since then. I'm probably the least into video games out of the band, so I'm pretty clueless on that front in terms of which ones. But I know that our song was definitely one of the ones kind of used in the playlist within the game on a couple of them, and our song, we've had a couple of Canadian teams in the league use our songs for goal songs as well. So yeah, the Leafs and the Flames actually used
Flames
Righteous
did too.
Smoke.
Did they? The Enforcer, right? I heard the Enforcer.
No, they actually used Righteous Smoke.
And
which is funny because their goal song is a song about weed, which is pretty awesome. I don't know if they knew that, but
no, I'd say they just took it because Righteous Smoke is on. That's one of the ones that's on those video games. By the way, if you don't know,
NHL 17,
right. So that must have been the reasoning on there, yeah.
And it's smoke, and where there's smoke, there's fire, and then the flames, and it's kind of a whole thing, I guess. And and that gave us kind of like a double in on the game because we had our songs as goal songs as well. So you could hear one song on the soundtrack, and then if the Flames score, you'd hear Righteous Smoke play. And it was it's pretty cool. And is this something that like that kind of world of being involved in like NHL 13 and NHL 17 and being goal songs, is that something that's kind of affected your songwriting? Are you guys as a group kind of being like aware of trying to write those like anthemic hockey songs now? Like
you know what, Jer always tries to write a record.
Okay.
Like that. The Enforcer was kind of like one of his brainchilds that was right from the get-go written with the full intention of being, he wanted it to be a hockey song, and he dreamed of it, being used as, in a hockey game, just sounding good in an arena. Like we almost kind of made the tempo of that song and the way the drum beat happens kind of, we wanted it to be optimal sounding in an arena at a hockey game. And so sometimes those songs make the album, sometimes they don't make the album because there's, when it comes down to, split decisions sometimes on what makes an album and what doesn't, So that one made it. Obviously, on True Rocker, we didn't really have our arena rocker anthem, but this next song coming up, we've already got one kind of that we're going to get going on next week. That is a potential another arena rocker.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great strategy. Keep the fans happy. Now, when did you find out the enforcer was going to be used at Leafs games after goals? I don't know how long it was. I just remember hearing it a few times.
It was like, how did I feel when we found out?
Yeah, I mean, like, when did you find out that? I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, the NHL, I guess, the video game goes all over the world, but if you're going to be a goal song for a team, the Leafs.
Oh yeah, well yeah, and I mean, me and Marv, our singer, are diehard Leaf fans. We bleed blue, and that was like one of the most incredible. That was one of the most incredible things to hear that they were going to use that as the goal song. They actually, before the season, they asked if it's okay if they insert the "Go Leafs Go" chant in the chorus, because that's. When they play the goal song, they inserted the "Go Leafs Go" chant in kind of like the whoa, the chant part. So we were like, you do whatever you want. You're the Leafs, and we love you. So that was pretty.
Are you all?
Pretty
Is
incredible.
all four guys hockey? I was going to ask that. Are the other guys into hockey? I know you are. We get into that after, but
yeah, me and Marv and Jer are. Jer's a Habs fan. Unfortunately, but it makes for some good. It makes for some good hockey banter. And Brando, he likes hockey. He doesn't follow it nearly as closely as me, Marv, and Jer. Like we're hockey pool guys that, every morning, we talk about the latest, hockey news. Like, oh, you hear this guy got traded. You hear this guy got a hat trick. Blah blah blah. We're hockey nuts. Yeah.
That's the way to do it. I find if you get in hockey pools or you play pro line, that's the way to learn quickly about everybody in the league, right?
Yeah,
you become a huge fan right off the bat.
Yeah, I've only been playing in hockey pools for this maybe my third season, and at the start I was like, I can't play in a pool. I don't know enough about hockey, and my buddies were like,
you know a lot about hockey.
Just start playing. Well, they're just like, just start playing in the pool, and you'll have no choice to know a lot about hockey.
Oh, sorry. You can go on. I didn't mean to
No.
cut you off.
You go ahead.
I was just going to ask, because if Brando is not as into hockey as you guys, is it something that, like, when you're touring, if you're on the bus or you're wherever, is it something that you guys are keeping up on that way? Because I know we've had a guest on in the past. Actually, it was when Jim Cuddy was on the show. He was talking about they don't watch hockey in the tour bus or on the van or in the van anymore because it kind of like splits up the group a little bit. So is that something you guys are still doing, or was it ever something you were doing?
We 100% do it. There's enough other stuff going on that Brando definitely doesn't feel left out when we're all huddled around the laptop in the dressing room or on the bus. We all like one of the tough parts about touring Europe and UK so much, which is where we spend most of our year, is the games are on at like 2-3 in the morning. So we'll often, go to sleep for a couple hours and then kind of set our alarms, wake up and watch the game and then go back to bed at 5,
Do you go to any pro hockey games in Europe? I mean, there's a lot of great leagues over there. I know you're probably busy.
Yeah, we've been to a few. The first one I went to was we went to see the Munich Red Bull. The DEL
game. We played them in exhibition when I was with Cincinnati. How's that rink, hey?
No way! Oh man, what a cool rink!
Yeah, I just find it cool.
It's like it's kind of like a European football atmosphere, Like you got the bleachers behind the nets are like standing bleachers only, and people are waving flags and jumping up and down, singing songs, and so that was cool. And also the last few tours we've done in the UK, we've kind of gotten a little kind of cross promotion partnership going with the Elite Hockey League. I believe that's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to check my facts. I believe it's called the Elite Hockey League in the UK.
Yeah, the English Elite League, I call it. It always changes.
Yeah.
We just say
but right, yeah. So we've actually we went to we practiced with the Nottingham Panthers over there, and that was actually when Brian McGrattan, a fellow Hamiltonian, was on the team.
God, we were over there last year shooting Frontier. I told you about that. I didn't realize.
Oh
you were in Nottingham.
Yeah.
I went to watch too. The Nottingham Panthers, I think.
The
wow.
Panthers. Yeah,
It still impresses me. All those places over there, like almost every significant city that you come to in that, not just England, you go Germany and Austria, and now you get Switzerland and Italy, the places that hockey's been around, but it's really it's taken a strong foothold now.
Yeah, and like the Scandinavian countries,
Yeah.
like Sweden, Finland, Denmark even. It's really cool to see the different game. The game's played a little different, obviously, right? It's a different level of play. It's a different, different types of players are kind of seen as more valuable. The fans want to see different aspects of the game. Over in England, they just want to see fights.
I know.
Like
it's still, it's North Americanized.
McGrattan's a rock star out there. He's any ex NHLer that goes out and plays is a big deal, and he knows how to throw them too.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, they think Europe's Europe, and I'm like, a lot of these places, it's different styles, man. Like that league, that league is, at this point, I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say it might even be rougher than, it used to be that, guys will go to England. It's a novelty. They'll like the fights, And
the speed of play isn't as high, so I think it's easier to find someone and get a body on them,
Yeah, no, you're right.
And the coaches love it because it riles up the fans and you get more fans out to the game because, hockey at that level is a lot about getting fans out and making money because the teams aren't rich like they are over here, and the players all have jobs, and it's so they do whatever's going to bring popularity to the game, and I think playing like big hits and fighting are a big part of that over there in England.
Yeah, they love it. I know they love it. It's the one place that the game is either staying where it was or getting a bit rougher. But don't you find when you're traveling, like I often say, like when I have hockey schools or whatever it might be, because like a lot of parents and a lot of kids, their first question will be, what do I have to do, or what does Johnny have to do to make the NHL? And I'm like, how many options there are out there? Like what success is in the eyes of the beholder here. Like, I don't know. I don't want to put the kid down. I don't know who he is. He could be the best on his team in the best province. The odds are still against him. You might get injured. You might get into the dope. You might get homesick. Right? You might have a girlfriend and get homesick for her, or she might come with you and you knock her up. There might be 1,000 things that happen, but by the time you're 19, 20, and you're 21 and you're a pro, it's just a lot of things. It's not survival of the fittest. Well, almost by that point.
Oh, the variables. Oh my God.
That go into making the show. So I often say, you guys realize, like, if he doesn't make the NHL, or even if she doesn't play 4 years at a top-notch college, like, do you have any idea the options that are over there? Because I say she because there are women's leagues now.
Of course.
But, like, there's so many. Like, you can go and as a fairly decent average professional player in North America, you can go over to Europe and tack 5 to 10 years on, depending what league you're in, and get to see the world. If at the very least, get to see the world for free and make a decent dollar. No one over there is going poor. There's not as much money in the NHL, but there's more money than there is in, say, the minors in the East Coast League and stuff. So I think it's a great option. Go ahead.
If you're doing it for the love of the game, for the love of playing, like, who wouldn't want to be playing in a barn with 5,000 people, just screaming your name? You know what I mean? Like, it's still a vibe going on in there. It's a serious vibe going on in those barns when the game's really hyped up. It's that's something I started to realize too in meeting those players. And there's a lot of Canadian and American players that I've met on those teams. We hung out with the Nottingham Panthers, the Manchester Storm, the Glasgow Clan. And a lot of them have Canadian guys on the teams who I still keep in touch with, and a lot of them, even the natives over there, they all come out to our shows. We go to their games when we head over. It's a cool relationship.
Well, this is the thing, and I often talk about this with Cuddy, and Jim Cuddy's the first one to bring this up to me, but I don't know how I didn't see it before. But he says, think of all, because we're out there skating around, and you guys have guitars and drums and instruments. I used to just disconnect the two, but he said there's so much similar. Like what I just explained is almost the same for you guys. You get to go over there as well. Like I'm not saying Monster Truck are huge, but there are markets that you'll play over here that aren't as big. Just like some guys that might be playing in Colorado Springs in the minors or Roanoke or somewhere, and then all of a sudden you go over there, and you're playing in Munich. Well, what's this? There's 8,000 people there. They got drums. They're chanting. They're, so, and not only that, not in the eyes of like a minor league band. Again, I'm not calling you a minor league, but you know what I'm saying. There's minor league.
Yeah,
totally.
Totally.
On a relative level,
yeah.
you're seeing it through the same eyes as some guys say who've been to the NHL and the AHL and go back and forth, maybe, right? That.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But not only that, like, don't you find, and you're performing, and you've got to give this performance, and the performance is usually 7 or 8 and 9 o'clock at night, and you have the whole day to kind of get a pre-game or pre-show meal in, and then you have maybe a nap, and some guys go for a walk. I just find when Jim explained it all, and then you're torn around on a bus or a plane, it's like it's really similar, and you're seeing the same places, right? I mean, do you find that?
Yeah. I've drawn so many parallels with it over the last few years. When I've really realizing it, meeting more hockey players and on that kind of level, and it's or even athletes in general. It is a very, there's lots of similarities and lots of differences too. It's that what you're saying about
are so obvious. I think that I just concentrated on those before, or I didn't even really give it much thought.
No, totally. You're right. But yeah, you're right. That even in terms of options, it's like there's bands that don't even bother. They're Canadian bands that don't even bother playing in North America at all anymore, and we'll just go over and play in Scandinavia, or we'll play in we'll play in England.
And the bands are huge over there.
Yeah.
I noticed that when I lived in Sweden for a couple of summers. They
love
just seem
the heavy.
Just seem everybody's quiet, and like I remember a couple of guys on the team over there took us fishing, and we were over there to train, myself and Brad Brown, and it just didn't. We were in Vasteras, Sweden.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
But
I don't think I've been there.
Koivu was in Finland, and Tucker went there with him. But the Habs would give us money to go train wherever we wanted. So like after a year, the first year we went to Brock University, not a bad place at all. I went to Brainerd, Minnesota a few years. I've talked about that, but then I remember looking at the boys and going like, "What? Anywhere? Like anywhere that there's a rink?" And then so we brought up actually Vasteras because Nick Lidstrom, not because of, but when I saw that he lived there and he was going to go there, and there was a guy in the Canadians at the time named Peter Popovich and a goalie for the Islanders named Tommy Salo, and they were all from this place Vasteras, which wasn't quite as big as St. John's, where I live, is about 250,000. It was probably half that size. Yeah. So they were practicing all summer. So I said, who's probably going to get a little bit better if I'm going against Nick Lidstrom for a summer, then no offense
taking
to
shots on
Miloslav
Tommy
Durin,
Salo.
but yeah, exactly, right.
Jeez.
Taking shots on Salo. So it was great.
Yeah.
When we went over there, I found it a lot like Canada in some parts of the culture and the attitudes and everything, and then just all of a sudden though, like I'd pop on. I remember in the room because I like to do the tunes, so even boys didn't have any music on, so I said, I'll go put on. And I remember like, I'll start with the Beatles. Like, is this too heavy? And I remember I played like back in the USSR, and then it accidentally went into Helter Skelter. Yeah. That's the way, probably a CD mix or even a tape at the time. Yeah. And I went over to take it off, and then I realized, then I looked at their collection of what they had. It was all heavy metal, death metal, hard, like the most packaged commercial product that they had there was Ace of Spades by Motorhead. That was it. There was everything else. I mean, stuff like Rammstein and like good stuff. Just
great stuff. I've always wondered about that though, and maybe both you guys could give me some insight on it. Do you, like in the terms of the chicken or the egg with regards to the Scandinavian regions? Like longing and thirst for metal, is it because of the imagery of it is so tied to their culture and their mythology, or is the mythology in the music because the fan base is in Scandinavia?
That's a Steve question. Go ahead, because I've only visited. You've been there as a rock star, you'd know.
You know what? I've never been there in a metal band, which would be quite an experience. But I have you seen that documentary called The Headbanger's Journey?
Yeah. No, I haven't. No.
No. Okay. You got to see that.
Okay.
It breaks down the genres of metal and sub metal and goes into the Scandinavian ties and like all countries up there, and it is super heavy, you know, in like even with the whole like there's bands that, you know, like burn churches and shit like that, you know.
Oh yeah, I know
it
there's some
gets,
really dark black metal bands.
like
Yeah.
super dark, like like that's way beyond me, you know.
And
but
then the concert happens, and the next day everybody walks around just normal, like you know, this cartoon birds
like,
tweeting like no one even. It's weird.
It was just a metal band, no big deal.
Yeah,
you know?
I know, which is great. Actually, I studied at one of my courses in folklore because, you know, folklore, there was so many options. There's a lot of storytelling and traditions and music, but I found that fascinating, and I don't think I ever really did. It's a good question, Mike, and I often thought too, you know, the Vikings, the whole idea of, you know, like, Scandinavian and Nordic, and
all that imagery is in the music, and I didn't know if it was that the imagery was in the music because the fan base was in Scandinavia, or is the fan base there because like they're talking about our folklore?
I think all
mythology.
of the above. And at this point, if you're 5 or 6 growing up, and that's what people listen to, like us here, like we like what everybody else likes, but we're overrepresented on the Irish side of things, right?
A little bit, yeah.
I think that's how it is with Sweden too. Like we played there many times, and there's tons of love for other types of music as well up there. It's just kind of, you know, like you say, it's kind of what they wear on their sleeve, what everyone knows them for.
Yeah.
But you know, there's also, it's a bit of everything up there. They like music in general. They're really passionate music goers. They're weirdly enough, they're very stoic crowds. Like they really stand there and observe the music, and they, when the song's over, they clap very intensely for like 20 seconds, and then everyone stops and waits for the next song. You know?
I love it.
It's kind of weird, but and you know, you're thrown off a bit at first because you're like, do they really like us, or you know, and then you know, people end up telling you like, afterwards, someone will always apologize for the crowd, like, oh, sorry, we are so quiet, you know, that is just the Swedish way, you know. That's an interesting thing about up there too.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, one thing I've got to ask before I forget, because I'm going off on all these tangents. Dee Snider, the last album, True Rocker. How did you get Dee Snider? And, you know, did you get to spend some time with him and, you know, really get to know him?
No, we didn't, unfortunately.
That's too bad.
Marv, our singer, he got to hang out with him one night. Basically, how it came about was Dee Snider was, I think he had written and was directing this Christmas musical and it was, you know, it was running in Toronto for a couple months at one of the theaters there. I forget what it's called, which is bad, but, on his way into rehearsals every day, he'd stop at this juice bar. He's a real health freak, so he'd start his day off with a nice, healthy juice. And the juice bar was playing our music over the PA, and he heard, I think it was the song "Old Train" off of our first full length, and he asked, "Who is this?" to the kind of juice barista, and I said, "Oh, it's Monster Truck." And I think he was playing the CD, so I think he just gave him the CD, kind of thinking he was doing us a solid, which he kind of was, because he, you know, listened to the CD and just started freaking out online on, you know, his Twitter, just saying how great he thought we were, and he kind of got in touch with us, and we sent him a bunch of swag, and he invited us to his musical, and then
Dee Snider's Rock and Roll Christmas Tale, by the way.
There you go. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
This is great.
Thank you.
No problem.
yeah. Which I still have yet to see. I'm sure it's unbelievable. Actually, Marv said it was great. So he, that's how the connection was initially made. And then when we were working on the last album, True Rocker, we were doing the song True Rocker. And there was a kind of a part where, you know, he preaches in it, and we knew that was kind of what we planned on doing in that song from the get-go. We just weren't sure who we were going to get to do it, and it just kind of, as soon as we kind of you know, got to know, I say know in brackets, a little online, we just kind of asked him, and he's like, yeah, for sure. And with the, the studio magic these days, we just emailed him basically the song, he did it and emailed it back kind of deal.
Which is just madness, right?
It's crazy. Yeah. It's so crazy that you can do that now. But, yeah, it was super, it was super cool that he, obliged us and did that. And, listening to it for the first time, I got like goosebumps. It was so cool. We just kind of let him run with it a little bit. I think Marv gave him a little bit of a kind of a skeleton of what we kind of want you to be preaching about, being a true rocker and all this stuff. And he just kind of went with it and put his own Dee Snider attitude on it. And it worked out really great. We have yet to do it live. We haven't crossed paths except for the one time that we did meet him was after he had done it and done the track in Sweden. Oddly enough, we were just talking about it at a rock festival, Sweden Rock, up there. And Twisted Sister is massive in Sweden, and they were playing on the main stage, closing it down one night. There's like 90,000 people on stage, and he invited us up to kind of stand on the side of the stage for their set. And right in the middle of their song, he just comes over and just gives us all like a hug. He's like, "Hey guys, love the song. Can't wait to do it live one day." And just kind of goes back to the stage and finishes the set. We're like, "Okay, cool."
Yeah,
Wow.
that's wild. I didn't meet Dee Snider, but stood next to him one time. I was in LA, and I was staying in an Airbnb, and the electronic gate, the power was out, so I couldn't get in. So I had to go to like Beverly Hills to the woman who owned the place to get the key from her. And as I'm like walking down Rodeo Drive, I'm like, and I've been flying from Newfoundland. I'm gassed. I'm tired. I'm dragged out. And I walk up to a crosswalk. And as I walk up, I see this guy standing there. And it's like, he's a tall dude. He's like, a little over 6 feet, long, blunt, like platinum white ponytail, dressed head to toe in black leather with like gold everything. And as I'm walking up behind him, I'm like, dude, that kind of looks like Dee Snider. And I stand next to him and I glance up and it's Dee Snider. And I go,
wow.
And before I could say boo, like the lights changed and he walked across the street. I was just like, what the hell just happened? It was just like I wanted to, and it was just I was like, because from music, but also from horror movies and all these things, like people say Dee Snider is like the sweetest, most approachable guy you could meet. And I was totally ready to just kind of fan out at him. And instead he just crossed the street.
Steve, Mike's like heavily into horror movies, more so than anybody
Oh,
I
cool.
know. Like, did Mike, just tell him how much you are.
Well, a lot.
What do you do? You work
Well,
there.
I've listened to the pod before. I get the gist,
true.
true.
So,
I keep
at the
forgetting.
time, I can't remember what I was there for that one. I don't know because I did.
It wasn't a cut either.
No. But I was doing like this time last year. I went down for the Halloween red carpet and hosted the coverage of that and all that. And I can't. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I did Halloween Horror Nights and Predator before that. And
you go to LA here and there and the red carpet kind of thing.
I think it was actually when I was there to do the It premiere is actually when this story happens. So yeah.
So not only are you into horror movies, you're quite a big deal in the scene.
No, not at all.
Okay.
he's on this every day, so people forget. It's often like, or you and Jim Cuddy coming on here and talking about hockey, but there's another big thing that we got to talk about: music. Well, to Mike, horror film in general, like it's a big, huge part of his life.
Yeah.
Now, when I say a
That's
lot of
cool.
times, people think you just fan out. Now, anybody fans out, so who gives a shit what you fan out about? I often say it, busting your balls here and there, but I mean,
you know what? It's a form of art.
Yeah,
art
man.
is cool.
And
It's
what I was going to say, and something I said before is like sometimes people give like fandom is fandom, whether it's movies or music or hockey or football or any kind of interest. Fandom is fandom, and if you're into something, you're into something, and it's something that you and other people can kind of like bond over and stuff.
Yeah,
and
I love
it's
when
fun
the
to
horror
face,
movies. I find. You go ahead, Steve. You go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you're right. It's so important to be passionate about something in life.
Yeah.
It's so important to have a passion. Like it's. I always find it so weird when, like the odd time I'll come across someone who's like, "Oh, what's your favorite band?" And like, I don't really listen to music at all. I'm like, you don't listen to music at all?
Yeah.
I don't trust anybody.
or like, it's having being into expression and just being so into something that you want to do it without even being paid. You want to spend your free time doing it. That's cool stuff.
Yeah,
good way to
but no,
explain
I
it.
don't. Anybody who's like, "Oh, I'm not really into music." I don't trust you. Like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Like, it's music. It's like, oh, I don't really watch movies.
Usually,
What do you do with your time?
Have you ever noticed
then?
people that don't listen to music usually aren't funny?
Yeah.
Comedy follows, even though comedy shouldn't really follow them. But for whatever reason, I don't know.
Well,
like
it's
people who
because
aren't into music at all
I
are
think
not
I think
funny.
because the whole thing is that in order to be funny, you need to have a personality. And
So you're
Right.
You're not,
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just like, I'll just say that to people though, and they're like, "No, I don't really like music." What do you mean you don't like music?
yeah, it's like
I mean, at
Oh,
some
oh,
point,
and-
if I got nothing,
and
I'll turn
thinking
on a
back to
drip in the
those-
bathroom tub. Like, give me a beat.
so what do you think about oxygen? I'm not really into breathing. Like, how do
Yeah.
you just,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Have you ever walked around before? No, I'm not big into walking.
Anyway, true enough. Now, as long as we're talking about fandom, I don't want you to get beyond this because I keep forgetting. But were you always into hockey? We get in those early years in
Yeah,
sports
yeah,
and piano. But were you like, and football? Clearly, you were a good football player. But were you into hockey? And if so, what age?
So my claim to fame was I played hockey probably from the ages of maybe 6 until when do you start hitting? When do you start body
Bantam
checking?
generally.
it's usually
Kiwi-
bantam, so like
13,
14? Yeah.
Okay, so I probably played from say 7 till 11 or 12, and me and my brother right below me, Andy, we were for like the last 2 seasons we played, we were the top 2 scorers in the league. I mean, it was a house league, but they kept score, they kept stats or whatever, and me and my brother he was a big goal scorer, and I was the setup man. We played on the same team, and we were kind of like the Sedins. I was always setting him up, and he was a quick skater, and I loved hockey, and we were both obviously pretty naturally good at it at a young age. But once the kids started hitting, and once the slap shots started getting higher and faster, I kind of, I don't know. I think I was traumatized by some bad injuries I had as a kid. I was always getting injured.
Yeah,
like,
that's normal.
Yeah, but to an extreme. I could do another podcast on bad injuries I've had in my childhood. I'm a very lucky guy, and
Wow,
I think
geez,
I think
if you follow
Yeah,
that
I-
up with "I'm a lucky guy," you must have had some crazy ones.
yeah, totally, and I have, and I think I just kind of got sick of recovering from injuries, and which it doesn't make sense why I got into football later, but I think maybe I think maybe in those years between hockey and football, I was glad I got out of the physicality, and then all of a sudden I was looking forward to get back into it with football. But
what position did you play in football?
in hockey,
In football,
in football,
in both, I guess.
football. Well, hockey, I was a center. My brother was a winger, and in football, I played slot back, a very Canadian position, kind of like an inside receiver, or sometimes you'd rip back and take a handoff, and sometimes you'd be blocking on the end of the line. So it was a very kind of Swiss Army knife position in football, and it was fun. But it just it took over my life, and it got to a point where I was thinking like, what am I going to do? Like really struggle here to try and maybe make the CFL one day, or I was right. Also, that was not, and I mean nothing against CFL. I'm not saying it in terms of that. I'm saying it in terms of like, I probably didn't even have a hope at that. That was my end game, like success if I had gotten there,
Yeah.
So
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, for someone.
yeah,
that's,
I'm not at all. But I have buddies who play in the league, and I know how hard they work and how tough it is to play professional football. Yeah, that's about the time I really heavily got into music, when I was about 20 years old. So it. I only played hockey for a few years, but I've been a fan my whole life. Like, some of my earliest memories of hockey are, when you're a kid and you can't sleep, and you get out of bed and you go downstairs, and my dad's watching the Leafs game, and I'd be like, "Dad, I can't sleep," and he'd be like, "Okay, come sit with me and watch the end of this period." That was always the thing. I would always get to go out, watch the end of whatever period they were on, and then
That's a Canadian
and then
thing,
I
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah. And how
find-
many kids have done that, right?
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, that was my honest man. That was my most. rewarding experiences growing up, having those unexpected nights with my dad and my mom. They were heavily into it, but I just happened to go on and play, but there was all kinds of my buddies did the same, and just like you, like some of us played, some of us didn't.
Yeah.
My house was more of a communal Mount Pearl kind of thing. It wasn't just the hockey players, and I always separate the playing and the watching and the fandom. I mean, I'm still a fan. Like, I totally separated, and I did then. Like, we'd all go down and go, hey, let's get a few beers if we're 14, 15 years old. If it's a little earlier, let's get a pizza party, whatever it is. But it was usually only 3 or 4 people of the 10 or 12 that actually played at a high level.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, though, something just popped into my mind. And I've got to ask you, Steve, because you started the story in my dad's basement, and it had to do with opening for Guns N' Roses. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah.
So just get into a little bit of that if you don't mind. That blew me away, just the little part that you told me.
That was that. So it was in Buffalo, I believe. No, sorry, I'm wrong. It was in Quebec City.
You were opening for Guns N' Roses, right?
We were opening for Guns N' Roses, and this was the Guns N' Roses that was just Axl fronting, a bunch of hired dudes. And it was actually just called GNR.
Yeah, it was as I think Jimmy Fallon once described it. It's Axl and 9 guys that aren't Slash.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. Yeah, so we were the opening slot on this festival called Festival d'été they have out there, and it's at the Plains of Abraham, and there's like, I think it's 80 or 90,000 people out to it. It's just massive. And so we're out doing our sound check in the afternoon, and I see this guy just rocking out at the side of the stage, and I'm not sure who he is, but whenever someone's digging our music, it pumps me up, and I love it. So we finished our sound check. I go over and like, hey man, how's it going? He's like, hey man, I'm a huge fan. Love you guys. Can't wait to see you guys play tonight. And I was like,
that must feel good. That must in itself feel good.
It feels great hearing that. It's that will never ever get old, and it always puts a smile on my face. And the guy ended up being Frank Ferrer, who was the drummer of GNR.
Okay.
So I was like, wow, that blew me away even more, kind of, So we like, wow, thank you so much. I'm really excited to see you guys play too. Blah blah blah. Fast forward to after our set, and we're standing side stage watching GNR play in front of this massive crowd. It was a really, really crazy experience just being there and watching Axl run around and be Axl. And
be excellent.
And all of a sudden, between songs, Frank looks over at me from the drum riser and he motions me to come up there. I was like, what? And I kind of, do the look behind me, like, is he looking at me? And and then he's like, yeah, come on. So I run up on the drum riser, which is, if you can picture Guns N' Roses, probably wouldn't surprise you that the drum riser is probably 12 feet high,
Yeah.
with multiple stairways coming down off of it, And he throws me a tambourine, and they kick into Patience, and I played tambourine up on the drum riser for Patience, and then that was incredible. Axl was running around singing. It was a very surreal moment. And then the song ends, and I go to give him the tambourine back, and he's like, no, stay for one more. And I was so overcome with whatever that I don't even remember what that other song was. I just remember that I stayed up there and I played tambo for another song, and then I ran off stage and it was surreal, it was pretty crazy.
I mean, and Patience is one of those songs too. It's one of those, like everybody who was alive when they grew up, like it's just one of those. You can picture the video, you can picture the song, you can picture the first girl, well, around our age, that you dance to it with.
Yeah,
it just really hits home. Like even if I can hear that song just in a room by myself and gets goosebumps. I mean that 100%.
As soon as that whistling,
as
that whistling kicks in at the start,
Yeah, it just had
Yeah,
a real impact. Even at the time, you could
yeah.
tell that it was going to be like that. And here you
Yeah.
get to go on stage.
But it's also
Yeah,
it's also not a tambourine heavy song either, right?
Oh, man.
no,
How do
no.
you
I
find
was,
how do you find the tambourine part in Patience?
yeah, well, you know what? You just do it when you're in front of that many people.
Yeah, man.
You just find a way. Well, you know what? I mean, to be honest, it was probably more of a here, come up and do this, so it's cool, like kind of a cool thing for me. Like, it's not like they had a mic on my tambourine or anything like that. You know, it was more of a. It's always cool when like the headlining band will incorporate the opener and
it's
some kind of collaboration in any aspect.
That's
it's
just
always
so awesome, man.
yeah, it really is.
And opened for Alice in Chains, you said. Was that for a full tour? I'd like to know. I mean, I watched Alice in Chains in the early 90s. I told you I played hockey in Seattle or in Tri-Cities, not that far from Seattle, far enough that we could go on the weekends, about a couple hours, and see that whole grunge movement going down. And Alice in Chains was, remember the first time I heard the song, I think Wood it's called, right? Yeah, just like, I just said, like, this is from another planet. I've never heard it before. Now, it turns out that area in Seattle at the time did have that sound a little bit, but I just found them always unique. And
oh man, they're such a cool band.
Good to hear.
They had this crit. Oh, but I'm even agreeing with you in terms of like hearing them for the first time. You know what I mean? Like the grit they had that kind of no other bands had. That kind of grit, that Lane's voice, and even the way the guitar sounded, and they were a really special band. That's so cool that you were there in that time, man. I can't believe that.
It was just, the timing was, and I didn't know anything about it. We'd heard a little bit about Nirvana and Pearl Jam. It was around then, right? Like, I went out there. I was 14 years old when you're drafted to the Western League. Soundgarden. It was 91, 92, yeah. Soundgarden. Yeah. And then the thing is, a lot of people, I don't think, realize, I guess you would have had to be there. So a lot of people went there to record and play because it was like the center of the universe. So, like, we saw Tim McGraw there, like, or even that, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Got Back. He's from Tacoma. Tacoma's right next to Seattle.
Way.
Right, the whole world kind of went there. So, like, there was just no shortage. I remember seeing David Copperfield twice there, back-to-back years, who probably normally wouldn't be up the Tri-City way, right? Yeah. But there was just so many things happening. And our building, like I said, it wasn't that far away, but it held 6,000. So it's perfect for these bands. White Zombie. Yeah. I remember, like, who's this tonight? Well, it's going to be White Zombie. Remember those, like, the dancing puppets come out, and then all of a sudden Rob's in this. It's like he was in a horror. You like horror films, you must love him. Yeah. And I was just like, what is going on? And everything then from, like, Mazzy Star, PJ Harvey, like, it was all going on there.
That's so cracked.
And first time I heard Monster Truck too, I said, I'm not in any way saying that either of those songs sound like one of theirs. You know what I mean? There's an influence.
Yeah.
I said, I bet you some of these guys probably liked the scene in the 90s.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, that was a big part of the formula for us. We were all influenced by that grunge. And kind of, I guess you got to call it grunge, right? That's what everyone calls it. That place, that time,
Where did you tour with them?
Alice in Chains, we toured with them, Canada and the U.S. We toured with them 3 separate times, I believe.
Oh wow!
And they were that's like probably one of the tours I most was looking forward to leading up to it, like, just because of how much I love the music. Like, touring with big bands that you've heard of is cool. It's very cool. But touring with big bands that you actually love to listen to and grew up listening to and that influenced you as a kid, that's a whole other level,
Totally.
And we first met Jerry Cantrell when we were on tour with Slash and it was a show in Seattle. And
oh wow!
And it was at a kind of a small, like, warehouse kind of club that would hold maybe like 1,000 people, 1,200. Yeah. And Duff came out on stage and played with Slash actually at that show.
Really?
Yeah. And they did. I think they did Night Train. And then after the show, met Duff, obviously, and Jerry Cantrell was there to hang out and watch the show as well. Met him that night, and then I think the way Flash speaks really highly of us, and I think that had a lot to do with us getting on that Alice in Chains tour initially, and then we just really hit it off with that band. We would, it was crazy. Like I would, go set up my drums behind the stage, walk back to our dressing room, and Jerry Cantrell would be sitting in there playing Chair's acoustic, singing some tune, or like what we went golfing in, I think it was South Dakota, and Jerry booked an early tee off time, and we were in a van at the time, and they were in buses, obviously. I said, Jerry, we can't golf tomorrow. We're not going to make it there in time. He's like, okay, well, just come on my bus, and that way we'll get there late, early, like wee hours of the morning. And then they got us a hotel room to just chill in until the golf game, and then took us out for a golf game, and we went out for dinner a bunch. We played pool a lot. They're just really, really awesome dudes that Mike Inez, the bass player, he would come out every night and do an old song of ours called "Sordid Beast." It's on it's on the Brown EP.
Yeah.
He that was his favorite song, so he asked if he could come out and play it. He came out every night and played that song with us, and that was pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah,
even though it's your own song that you've played like 1,000 times, it's still like, oh my God, I'm playing it with Mike Inez right now, we really made a great bond with them on our tours together, and we haven't seen them in a while, but it's just how things line up sometimes.
Of course, but you're seeing the world. You just so for those, I'm trying to put a timeline. You were here. That was the beginning of September, and then you went. I did pretty much every time because Steve and I text back and forth at least once a week, I guess. But since then, you've been touring in the States. I knew Atlanta. I know St. Louis. Where else were you down there, and how'd it go?
Yeah, it was cool. We started off in Green Bay, and we were in kind of middle America for a while, which is interesting. I've never spent that much time there in middle America. I'm sure you must have played in tons of those cities.
Every league in North America, man. I was forced to be in 44 states, although I love it, though.
Right.
I love it.
Right.
Middle America is just the flavor. Just every day I feel... You know what? I don't know if I can quite put it into words. It's a lot of what I expected before. I get deja vu a lot. I don't know if it's from watching old movies, but there's some level of there's an Americana to it that's almost expected and refreshing. Anyway, what do you think?
Totally. I mean, I'm not going to throw a judgment on it. I definitely haven't spent as much time as you probably have down there, but it was a cool time of year to go to. It's I love this weather. I love the autumn, but we started up there, and then we ended up going down to Florida and the South for a while, which was awesome because it's we went right back into shorts and t-shirt weather, and went out to California through the desert and Phoenix, and up in the mountains in Colorado and Utah. And then
there's another one of my favorite places I've been, Colorado Springs. I played there 1 year. Oh boy,
I think I may have texted, or either I don't know if I texted her or if I was just thinking of you when I drove by the Colorado Springs because I knew you played there.
Yeah,
I was like, here's because it was my first time there, and it was we were in Denver, but still such a beautiful. Beautiful city, and I mean that was actually the first city that I think it took 3 weeks to get there on the tour. It was like a 4.5 week tour, and that was the first city that we got to where I could go buy some weed at a dispensary and not have to worry about going to jail.
True enough. I keep I
know.
mean, I
We
went back to the
take it
States
for granted now.
We do take it for
It's
granted.
been a year and a half, and we take it for granted.
We
It's
do.
mad.
I know.
I was in Washington last year. I went back to Tri-Cities, and
Yeah.
it's allowed there, although it wasn't as easy as I thought. I had to drive like a half hour outside of town.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it is here. I don't know what people listening to this are all over the world. Give us your thoughts. For us in St. John's, we're never honestly, we're never a golf hole away from a weed store. Like a par 5. If I look a par 5 in any direction from wherever I am in town, I can hit a weed store. That's how many there are.
That's really funny that you use that way of describing distance, because I literally use the exact same
Do you?
thing. Or I say I could hit a baseball there. I say that
I
sometimes.
know, I do that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is that since it's been legal, while it was illegal, it was like a mini golf hole away from it.
Well,
Like,
true.
It was a par 3 at best.
But like, I keep saying it. I don't care what anybody says, man. Like, I like it, and I like not about the weed thing. I mean, I don't care about saying that. I'm just saying. People go, well, it might have been better before because my dealer had better weed. Now, look, man, I can walk in and get whatever I want. If I get anxiety, I can get this. If I get pain, I can get this. If I get CBD, I can pretty much take care of any of those things. Sometimes I want to get a little bit stoned and go to a movie. Sometimes, I don't want to be too stoned. I want to be fairly clear-headed. I didn't even know that was a possibility till I came into CBD. Yeah. But anyway, I think the whole world's going to catch up.
When you're buying from Joe Blow down the block, you don't know what you're getting. Exactly. I mean, not that it's not like, it's not as extreme as buying fucking, some coke laced with fentanyl, but it's like, but it's like, if you get anxious with too much THC, and you buy
It's
from
over.
the guy down the block,
Exactly.
like he's like, so what kind of weed is it? It's weeds,
the good kind.
The whole reason I'm getting it is to avoid the feeling I have right now. What the fuck did I just smoke?
Exactly. Exactly.
And I mean, I can go, and I'm somebody who's never been much of a smoker or anything, but like I can go, like you said, I can go get like some CBD. Like I use the spray, like the oil spritz, and I love that shit.
Right.
And I can just go to the store and buy some for like roughly the price of a case of beer, and be set.
And with no hangover.
I'm curious. Exactly. I'm curious to know what kind of usages there are in the hockey world, and if that's changed at all now that it's legal. Or
here you go. What a great way to introduce one of our guests in the near future. I've never met him, but we talk online a lot. Riley Cote. And Rob Frid, actually. Rob
Frid's been a friend of the show.
Yeah,
he's been a past
involved.
guest, and he's been involved in Medicinal My Way, I believe his name is.
He is, yeah. And if I follow Rob for that, and I've been talking to Cote so much. I know that if you follow Cote on Instagram, most of his posts, and maybe his company, whatever it's called, is an umbrella of that, and you will get to follow it. But I encourage anybody who's into hockey or weed, because I didn't believe it. I wouldn't believe in my lifetime that this would happen, Steve. It was honestly, when I played up there, you might as well say any drug of the above. If I did weed, I did coke. I did, not me, but if someone on the team, if you just said you were doing drugs, a lot of people looked at it all in the same umbrella, right?
Right. Didn't matter what it was.
Didn't matter what it was. Now, there was some people, obviously, that thought otherwise, but they were just outnumbered, and there was really no one even thought to push for marijuana. We're like, we get enough perks here as it is. I'm not going to start chirping my mouth as a 19-year-old. Oh, no, please, can I have some weed before my NHL game? But but with Riley, though, it's right down to it. The first time I did it, I had all these symptoms for all these years, and like I said, sometimes the anxiety would help, sometimes it wouldn't. But I also, as an aging player, I still play senior hockey. I play ball hockey on a world level. The CBD. Now, and the CBD doesn't really get you stoned if you're doing all CBD. So anybody who says it, I often say to people, like, they're not trying to get stoned. They're being serious here. If they tell you they like CBD, I mean, as well as other stuff, but CBD in particular, I took that. It was magic. All of a sudden, the pain went away better than most painkillers, except my liver doesn't get all fucked up, and I don't have major league anxiety right after, because that happens a lot with those pills too, right? And, I was clear-headed, and my anxiety went down. And I found, for me, if you can't tell people, I often ramble on, and I can't get my thoughts clear fast enough. I can't get the words out fast enough. I often need to do like breathing exercises to bring myself back down to earth. But CD does that with 2 a.m, and I'm good. And so I think a lot of people I'm going on and on, but Riley Cote, you asked me, Riley Cote has just brought this into NHL dressing rooms, and it's a brand new thing, but finally we're going to have CBD in National Hockey League dressing rooms. Follow Riley for the rest of it. We'll have him on soon. He's agreed. I just don't know when.
At Riley Coyote on Twitter. And he's part of Athletes for Care, which is also something that Rob Frid's involved with.
Yeah.
And so he's got a couple different things going on that way. And check out Body Check Wellness is also his company.
And now, Stevie, you don't booze much anymore, right?
I don't at all. Actually,
you're more. Okay. So you're. Okay.
It's been 3 years since almost 3 years.
And when you told me that, at our age, someone says that, and you almost want to go, because often something major league happens. Someone, I don't need to know that. I just need to know your mind's in a happy place. You know what I mean? Someone says, "Oh, I don't drink."
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
know if there was a car accident. I don't know.
I think there's more times than not there's going to be some sort of big life event that really wakes you up.
So don't feel the need to try to elaborate on this show.
No. Yeah, of course. No. But I think it's probably a pretty rare thing that someone just by just quits because they just think maybe I'm doing a little too much. Usually something has to happen.
Yeah.
You have to kind of hit the proverbial rock bottom. It's kind of a cliche thing to say, but you do kind of have to get to a place where, for me, I don't think I had a one certain event. It just the bad things that it was causing in my life started to outweigh the fun times I was having while I was drinking it. And it makes things a lot harder in a lot of ways. It puts a strain on your body. Obviously, like when I'm out on tour and I'm getting to the end of a 6-week tour where I've been basically having at least a few beers every day. Because it's there, it's free, it's sitting around, everyone else is doing it. My body is not in a nearly the condition it was when we started. Even though I'm playing a show every night, I was finding it harder to a bit harder to play comfortably and confidently, and I was finding my mind would go to different places where I didn't want it to go while I was on stage, and even in my relationships, at home, it was just taking over, so to speak. And
well, it makes sense, man.
Yeah, and stopping drinking was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I'm the happiest I've ever been, and the one thing about it is I try not to be Mr. Preachy about it. I don't want to ever come off to anyone as drinking's bad, you shouldn't do it. That's how I feel about, for me, and drinking works differently with different people. Like my wife can have one drink a month, and not feel the need to have any more than that.
I hear you, man.
Whereas I was at the level where if I had one beer, I was having 7.
Yeah. And then with that many, you're getting a hangover. Maybe am I wrong?
Well, I remember the last tour that I did before quitting. I just remember coming. It was a 9-week tour. It's 10 weeks actually, and it was. I was getting to the end of it, and I was just like thinking to myself, I don't really remember a time on this tour where I haven't been drunk or hungover. I didn't have any of those clear hours, of the day. It was always recovering until I started again, and I really started to miss those clear times, it came to what it came to, and I've been really fortunate that I haven't really had any crashes back into it. I've had a few sips by accident. If I pick up, like on this last tour, I was twice served, which is a big no-no for servers. Let this be a lesson. If someone orders a non-alcoholic beer, you got to bring it in the bottle and let them pour it in the glass. You have to do that.
Don't even tell me someone. What? Are you kidding me? I hate to laugh,
yeah,
but my God, if there's a major, right?
I ordered. It was in Green Bay the first night of the tour, last tour. I ordered an O'Doul's Amber, and she brought it over, and she said, "Oh yeah, I hope you don't mind. They just poured it in the glass for you." The bartender. I was like, "Okay," And I had a sip of it, and I was like, "This tastes really weird." And I was like, "You know what? I just had a Lifesaver. Maybe my palate's off or something like that." And I had like another sniff, and then I was like, "This is going to sound weird, but does this have booze in it?" And she's like, "I don't think so, but let me check." And apparently they serve an amber called Odell's there. So the server,
man.
so the bartender read Odell's and served. I only ended up having a sip, luckily I'm not the type of guy that it's like Frank the Tank. Once it hits your tongue or whatever, it that is game over. But some people are like that, and that could be dangerous. So. Anyone out there listening that's a server, if anyone orders non-alcoholic drinks, you gotta bring it in the bottle.
God.
Yeah, you gotta bring it in the bottle.
That's amazing. Imagine, because I know people that really wouldn't. Yeah, one sniff of Listerine and they're back on it, right? So
that's
unbelievable. I can't even believe that happened.
I know.
You're Juno 2013. First of all, did you speak at the awards ceremony? And second of all, where is that Juno right now? I believe.
It's
best new group, or what was it? Breakout group of the year.
Breakthrough group of the year. Yeah, it is sitting in my parents right now. I gave that to my parents.
Wow.
It's they're the biggest reason why I've been able to take this as far as I have been able to. As I'm sure getting to where. You got in hockey takes an incredible amount of dedication and support from your parents, right?
It would never, ever have even been possible at all if it wasn't for them.
So that's where it resides. And I didn't speak. I'm not really a speaker. I've never, I don't say anything at shows in between songs. I don't, I normally don't do many of the interviews or anything like that. But I remember Jer did the speaking, and he made his notes on his phone, and so there's like these pictures from the Junos where like we're on stage, I'm like holding the Juno and in front of everyone, and Jer's just like got the mic and he's just looking at his phone like
so it looks like he's like a millennial.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So, but that was the one and only time I actually met Jim Cuddy. Actually, was at the Junos.
Well, the next time year. I'm up that way, we'll have to all go out for a bite to eat. Jim.
Well, you know what? You got to put in a good word to get me invited to play in the Juno Cup.
Okay, buddy, I will. But first of all,
you got to put in.
Well, before we go further, so you sent me a hockey jersey, so you're still skating then?
Yeah. I'm off and on. I got some disc issues in my lower back that flare up every now and then. So I'm off and on. And
Speaking
with my travel schedule
CBD.
too.
Oh, keep going.
Yeah. Oh, I get a steady dose of that. Don't you worry.
No, I'm serious though, for sure. And to be honest with you, I can't believe I haven't brought this up before. But if you play every April, that's kind of how I got to know Jim so well. So Jim and Dave Bedini, who's been a guest on here, there's this big tournament called the Summit of Arts Exclaim Cup, and it's all like film, it's all industry stuff, it's all creative arts, right? So,
cool.
I don't know, randomly, we played a team. It's Sloan, it's not just their band, it's their buddies and stuff. Then for a while, the Hip had a team, and for obvious reasons now, I don't know if they all play on the same team. Gord was their main guy. But Dave Bedini, it's Tim Thompson we had on last week. He plays on that team.
Sam Roberts is a
Sammy Roberts, Montreal
player.
sends a team. He's a real good hockey player, It's all industry stuff. We send Republic of Doyle, which is not even a TV show anymore, went off the air,
right.
I think, in 2014 or 15, but we still send that team. You're welcome to play for us, buddy. You're welcome to play for us. It'll be an excuse to all get
honored.
together. I tell you this, at the end, and at the middle day of the tournament, so the tournament, I believe, is like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, say. So Friday night, we all go to the Horseshoe, and each, the famous bar there downtown, and each group gets to get up and do a skit sort of thing. So it's a blast.
No way.
Yeah, we usually have it.
It's like an open mic from what I've heard. It's like each team
You
is
get a half hour,
responsible
yeah.
for like a half hour of programming of the night. Is
And it doesn't just have to be music.
Wait, it can be anything. Like Dave Bedini and them combined. Like they go up in the last year, for example, they had their baby blue original Hockey Night in Canada jackets, and they'll do they always make a show of it. Dave's always, and then the year before they were Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, but it wasn't just the Dave Bedini band and the Rio Statics and those guys. It was just a bunch of their friends as well. So Dave probably had 12 people.
Right.
I went up with them singing Beatles songs.
Count me in.
Yeah. You're going to love this weekend in every sense. You're going to relate to everybody there. It's like hockey fans. It's downtown Toronto. I've got buddies there at the Air Canada Center, or is Scotiabank Center now?
Scotiabank Arena now.
I can't keep track
we
anymore.
go down there in the dressing room.
Yeah,
and,
it's
Future Dominion.
check it out. So listen, we've been on for an hour and 15, so I suppose I will leave it there with an invite, unless you got something else for him, Mike.
No, I mean, this has been fantastic. My only question, like, I have one going back to like when we were talking about like Canadian football, but I mean, that's not. It was mostly just like, how has no one, like, as somebody who plays Canadian football and came up through and played college and stuff, how has no one killed themselves on the uprights at a Canadian football game? Like, the uprights are like right there at the like line, right? Like, how has no one died from that?
Oh yeah, that's the extra man. Yeah. Oh, you could probably look up like a YouTube like highlight reel of hits by the goalpost.
That's actually not a bad idea. I laugh, but they're so comical.
Yeah.
I just
the
flinch
amount of-
anytime
the
I
amount of
watch
passes.
CFL. Yeah.
And then the amount of passes that are blocked by the uprights too, it's insane. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, that was all I had. That was the one thing that we were like, I wrote down as we were going through and never got a chance to come back to. But other than that, I'm good.
Okay, well, listen, this has been awesome, stimulating. I just looked down and we've been out here like an hour and 20 minutes again. Steve, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And by the way, like I said, you got that in April, and in a year, in next October, I got a bunch of NHL alumni. They're coming over here, Scotty Thornton included, good ex-Canadian, ex-San Jose Shark, ex-Leaf, ex-Oiler. He's going to come over with a few friends, and we're going to go on a little excursion, maybe fishing, hunting, whatever the boys are into.
Oh, yeah.
Outside the city for a few days and then come back in and wind it down in St. John's, like I said. And by the way, Scotty's a Montreal or a Monster Truck fan. So
nice.
You're more than welcome. I know you said you wanted to visit, and maybe even you can bring over your family. And if not, hopefully Monster Truck is back in the next summer either way.
And I would love that. Thank you
well,
so much for having me today, guys. It was awesome chatting with you guys.
Steve, it's been great. Thank you so
We're
much
on,
for taking the time.
Very interesting. One of my favorite pods so far. Thanks a lot, buddy.
All right, cheers, guys. Hope to see you guys soon.
All right, see you, buddy.
See ya.
Bye.
Penny Posh, maternity wear reimagined, breaking the barriers of style, fit, and comfort that often leave mothers-to-be uninspired in their new wardrobe. Penny Posh's designs have reinvented a clothing category often seen as disposable, temporary, and unattractive. Well, not with Penny Posh. Check it out, a continuous fit maternity collection from bump to bundle and beyond. You can check them out on Twitter at Penny_Posh, on Instagram at PennyPosh_maternity, and of course on their website, www.pennyposhdesigns.com. Penny Posh Designs, maternity wear reimagined.
Wow, a huge thank you to Steve. That was a great one. Just a lot of fun conversation, and those are always some of my favorite guests, like the guys that aren't like your traditional hockey talk people,
Totally.
but can still kind of.
I could just get lost in those stories. Like, yeah, because you know what? A lot of we're just not expecting.
Yeah.
Like I knew so much about Steve from talking, and with every hockey player, you can sit here and fill in the blanks. First of all, a lot of them are my buddies.
Yeah.
Second of all, you get hockey DB or elite prospects that'll pretty much fill in every blank. You know every assist this person got in their lifetime. But when it comes to musicians, it's not as easy. You can just look up the little stories from the touring towns, whatever it might be. You can listen to their songs, but there's no way that you can just internally digest their Wikipedia and then all of a sudden know everything about them like you could a hockey player. For the most part.
I mean, like you said, there's anecdotal stuff that kind of comes up, but for the most part, it's hockey, so you can kind of read between the lines with the stats. But yeah, and actually it's funny enough, like you said at the end of it, like, did I have anything to add? And I asked the silly CFL question, but I meant to early off the top ask him about the formation of the band and how that kind of all started and what other bands he might have played with before and all these things that we just kind of got lost in conversation and never got a chance to get to.
I know, like almost, and I do. At first I used to just come in and wing it, but it's one thing to know information. You got to kind of know where to direct it, and we're getting better at that. I think.
I think so.
I write down what I can, but sometimes these, like, I'd known Steve, not that long, but we've had a lot of conversations. Like he only called me after Spittin' Chicklets this summer after I was on there. But again, he came into the house, with Dad, so imagine how.
Because it wasn't that long after all that happened that Iceberg Alley was, and they came to town, and they did like a sneak preview show before Iceberg Alley too,
Club
right?
One,
yeah.
And like I said, we'd talk for hours and hours and hours. And then, like, on the way out of my dad's house, the last minute, he tells me a story about Patience and Guns N' Roses. That's why I had to get to that. But I was like, what? Like, and you're just throwing this in there now. Like, and I'd asked him about, different experiences he had on stage and everything. And, and Steve's a really humble guy, first of all. So it's not like he came in wanting to talk about himself. He came into the basement because he wanted to see a bunch of hockey memorabilia. Yeah. And it was hard to even get a word out of him. That's why I wanted to have him on here, man, because he's a very humble guy and he doesn't speak about it much, right?
And the thing is and we've had 35 guests on up to this point, and you always kind of learn something you don't expect. I mean, like, we've had 35 guests, but me and you have had a lot of more than 35 conversations. I never knew you were around for an archaeological discovery before. That came out today. Like, every now and then, you just get those, like, weird little things that, like, oh shit, did I never tell you this insane story about the time I had breakfast across from Madeleine Albright in Qatar? Like, I never
actually you with the Twisted Sister story too, or the Dee Schneider story.
There's always something kind of crazy. So it's kind of cool to get a chance to talk to somebody and have that kind of long conversation to get these really cool bits of information out from people. And hopefully everybody listening also enjoyed it. What else you got on the go? What's happening?
What do I have? God, the Senior Hockey League's about to start, and I'm in that position. It's a tiring time of year because I got so much on the go. Usually fall is laid back everywhere else, but just I use it, with the public speaking. I'm in Ontario at the end of November, and I do have to come up with a new act. It helps. I'm going to the same spot. Like, it's going to be a lot of the same people. They're mostly hockey stories, and the great thing about, and Tyler Morrison's going to be almost pitching me kind of, I go up with him, and we're going to do like a similar to Puck Talks, but almost, because I do some stand-up. I enjoy doing this. The great thing about it is that a lot of people, when I get up there, it's Q&A, and I can take it there. I still am not comfortable in a comedy club just, and here's the next comedian, if they don't know who I am, and coming up and, hey, by the way, I'm a hockey player. I don't, what's the deal with, curved sticks? That's
the thing is, like, that's not the type of performer you are in that sense, is that you're a storyteller.
I'm a storyteller.
And having the context of who you tell funny stories, and you will make people laugh and you'll entertain them.
Thank you.
But it's in the context of, like, get up and do your 7-minute set at the comedy club is not the type of thing
and
you
I
do.
like people to know that going in, like, who I am, because, oh man, I did a couple, I'll tell you, like a couple of years ago, I say I don't like, I've done 50 at least just straight stand-up outside of public speaking. But a couple of years ago, like I said, in Toronto, I used to just go, and I do every Tuesday, I think, and Thursday it was maybe, at Richmond Street, Yuck Yucks there, right downtown, next to where the big theaters are, across the street. Right down, like really a stone's throw, like I said, a par 5 from Scotiabank Center. But, I would do it, and, like, often, people would be, what? Like, I try to string something together, and I'm not going to say, I don't want to exaggerate and say it was ever like crickets and someone threw something at me, but there was often half the room not engaged.
Yeah,
but
I mean, that's any time you do
next
stand
week,
up.
Fair enough. But, like, if someone knew, Dale Howardchuk ended up hiring me out to do his NHL alumni golf tournament.
Right.
So I did that. Now Mississauga Yuck Yucks heard about me, and they said, okay, we're doing a hockey night. Do you mind coming? Now they advertise it. Now people know that they're coming to see a hockey act.
Right, yeah.
I love it then. I'll wheel. I'll go on. I'll just go in circles and, say, bring the fans in, bring the people in. What do you want to hear? Ty Domi's story? Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I'm just wedged in between, a couple of guys or girls that are stand-up comedians and just want to shoot the breeze about politics, then I'm often misused that way. And I say misused because they're more adaptable to stand-up comedy, I have to be honest. Me, I'm adaptable to storytelling. If you want to get a little bit of banter, fine. If you want to go Q&A, I can take it somewhere. But to just go up and, this is what I think's funny, guys.
Yeah.
And I'll always, I don't want to say I'll always struggle with it because I just don't put myself in that position anymore. But in this one anyway, coming up in November, I've got that. And then I got 3 or 4 public speeches right after. I'm going to start another podcast. The podcast, I'm not starting. I believe it's called the Hockey Podcast Network. And I'm going to be telling some stories on there. It'll be, again, we started this together, and I don't want to alienate anybody or quit one for the other.
Yeah.
For lack of a better way to put it. But so I'm going to use a lot of the guests we've already had on here on the other one, and it's just going to be me and a guest. I think it's going to be called Tales with Terry. Hockey Podcast Network. Keep an eye out now.
And they're doing great. They've got they've set up. This is their first year. They're doing this really cool thing where every team has a representative podcast.
That's what
they're
doing.
Doing a couple things. But Terry's, you're obviously going to be.
I'm going to be the 33rd podcast, and just talk about stories. And it's not. I think the other ones have to have 1 or 2 a week. I might have 1 or 2 a month.
Yeah.
And like I said, they asked me to do it, and I'm intrigued. But. I love doing this, and they know it, and they're going to let me promote this on that show, and hopefully one leads to more listeners for the other.
Yeah, so keeping everybody here, as you're listening, make sure to subscribe to the Hockey Podcast Network. Everything kind of goes up through their channel, so subscribe to that, and then...
No, thank you. Yeah, and I'm still extending on, you said, what do you got on the go? Mill Street Brewery, I'm downtown. And we just did a foraging video, the great Roger Monder. Think short film, for lack of a better, it's like a documentary. It's just, I'm working at Mill Street. A lot of people don't realize we have a craft brewery right here that we make our own, we use our own ingredients. For example, we have our own seaweed in the Seaweed Gosa. There's beers now down there on tap that we use, Newfoundland mushrooms, plums, berries. So I've been working with Roger to put that out. And again, I guess some people have been writing me about Letterkenny. They said, we just got season 7. You're not in it. I know. I said I filmed it this summer. I'm in season 8. It'll be out. They just do Letterkenny shoot faster than I've ever seen it in 19 days.
And it's something I've meant to mention it to you too, because we were talking about it before. But that's the thing is, with them, they do such quick seasons. And we were saying at the time you did it, it's it's the end of August. It's cracked that you're going to be on the season in a couple months.
I thought at first I was going to. I think it's going to be January, February.
Yeah, but they also do they do Christmas specials and all this kind of stuff. So it's just keep an eye out at some point here.
Keep an eye out. The best thing I can say is to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then you'll get an idea. Because honestly, asking me what I got on the go, I'm probably forgetting some stuff now, and I should mention for people that want to follow junior hockey, my stepson, well, he's not really my stepson. You know my story. Yeah. BJ Young was my buddy, died in a car accident. I raised his son, Tyson. Well, Tyson plays out in St. Paul for the Junior B Canadians. And I know a lot of people in Alberta, actually, that know that I raised Tyson and ask me often where he's playing, and I forget to tell them. But that's where he is. This is his 2nd year. I believe he's roofing. He's got a new truck. He's doing well. Tyson's 20 now. He'll be 21 in March. Man. And, he's doing fine. And the games are online and everything. So, if anybody is interested, a lot of people, he grew up here. He didn't leave here till... after,
it was only a year or two ago.
Yeah,
right?
It was only a couple of years ago. So he played midget all the way up, and a lot of his buddies, every time I see him, they ask. So there's that update. My wife got Penny Posh. A lot of people ask me about that. That's Penny Posh clothing.
Which you heard, you would have heard the ad for that in between the interview and this current segment. Yeah.
You are right. Oh, yeah, jeez. That's where my head is, man. I'm exhausted. That's what I got on the go.
We don't play we don't always play the ads as in the room. It's something I usually throw in after. So, you know, you didn't,
And you're good at it.
Oh, thanks. But yeah, I mean, you got a lot on the go, so maybe I'll let you go take care of some of that because I'm actually I'm not sure when this episode's going to come up, if it's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday, but it's Halloween week, and as you mentioned, I do horror movie things, and so because of that, I've been super busy. I'm actually hosting an event on Wednesday night called A Nightmare on George Street. That's at the Black Sheep on George Street. Used to be the Fat Cat. Wednesday night.
I will try.
And it's all local authors. It's for WANL, the Writers Alliance of Newfoundland and Labrador. And
I'm a part of that.
Yeah, I am
Not that I'm
too.
going to be that night. I'm not suggesting like I would to Damien Fowler. Hey, let me sing a song. No, I'm just saying.
Well, what we actually did is
I want to be on the paint in the background.
We had 12. We opened it up for submissions. 12 local authors submitted short, scary stories that they wrote. 6 of those got shortlisted. I've been all week filming with those authors, so we filmed them in the basement of the Arts and Cultural Center Library, the A.C. Hunter Library. Yeah. We filmed them all down there reading their stories. And so on Wednesday night, 6 of those are going to screen so that they have copies of their stories then in the future they can promote online. And then while the audience is going to vote for their favorite scary story, and while those votes are being tallied, I'm reading an original short that I wrote.
Beautiful.
So that's going to happen Wednesday night. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I've been super busy trying to cut together all these videos.
Where do you see this stuff? Like, I'm certainly not saying that I would ever finish in the top 6, but I like those little tasks. I get anxiety.
Yeah.
I like okay, that's why often people go, oh, you wrote a short movie. I wrote it because I couldn't sleep. I was going out of my mind. Where would people go?
Well, with that one, it was promoted online, so it was exclusive to WANL members. So you would have been able to submit if you had wanted.
Lazy.
But
okay,
it's on. But through Facebook, through whatever. But there's lots of stuff like that. Like the Nickel Independent Film Festival does a bunch of 48-hour challenges. So they just did a horror movie challenge a couple weeks ago.
I know Justin Foley's always into those.
There's
he's got those on the
stuff
go.
in they do a rom-com one in February. WANL will do another rom-com one around like basically WANL and the Nickel do either short film or short story contests around the same time that are just like kind of promoting flash fiction. So there's a bunch of chances to get out and do that sort of stuff.
I shall see you there next year.
Yeah, well, yeah, do it. But in the meantime,
literally, I think I'm going to sleep till next year.
If anybody is listening and this goes up before 7 o'clock Wednesday night, come by the Black Sheep on George Street. Used to be the Fat Cat. You can come there and listen to some great new local stories, scary stories. Okay. Perfect way to get in the mood for Halloween, but that's what I've been tying up all my time with all week. I was actually there today. We had the last writer, the last author wasn't able to make it last week when we did the rest, so I shot the last one of those this afternoon. So trying to get them all done in time to screen Wednesday night.
Well, good luck with that. Maybe I'll see you there.
Hopefully see you there, yeah. But until then, I guess we'll go so that we can both take care of all the things that we're doing. Chuck will be back next week probably, unless he gets lost in a back of a strip club in Montreal, which I don't think he's going to do, but
We never know. Those are the ones you got to worry about.
But in the meantime, until then, you can find me at Hickey, Mike.
Terry Ryan 20 on Twitter, Terry Ryan 2020 on Instagram.
And we're at 3MI Podcast, and you can find all of our stuff at 3mipodcast.com and shop and do a bunch of stuff. But until next week, have a good one, and we'll be back then to shout at you about hockey. Talk to you soon.
Why do you hang around with the worst crowd, the worst crowd, the worst crowd?